any other necessities that we may have. We're very sensitive to our vulnerable population, and so many looking to add to the inventories we need to utilize additional facilities available. We want to know that that's available for us. This particular facility is they have about 68 beds. It can be expanded to even more beds. They already have 21 beds that are available. The hookups are in place. The cafe is in place, so it's ready to go. Even today, that's the good news. I'm kind of taking on facilities throughout the city just to make sure we have that inventory. If at whatever point needed, they don't have to scramble around for it. So I want to thank these two doctors, two of the aides who own this particular facility. And why is that important? You know, we continue to look at the numbers. I tell people I don't want to like folks sitting on the numbers just because we know we're doing more testing. There are going to be more cases that will be confirmed positive. And as of this morning, for example, we were at 232. Another 54 in the city of Houston to that count. That would bring us up to 286. And as we do more testing, let me tell everyone, I expect the numbers to continue to grow. I'm not shocked at all about these numbers because it will give us a better sense of what community. And I fully expect that there are more cases. Again, you know, I take these numbers, I multiply them by 10 because we know disease, and that and we're steadily ramping up our testing. What I did want to know from just from the numbers that have come in, let's say as of this morning, the 232 of who's in those numbers. And so I've asked my team to start analyzing these numbers, and we'll be doing more of an analytical breakdown, manual form, and this week I hope to kind of provide a sense of who we are talking about without divulging people's names or their identities. So, for example, and we may be off a few percentage points, but not very much. About 50% of them are female, and 43% are male. And again, you know, we're a little bit off, so those numbers can kind of go up a little bit. But that's counting the 54 today, roughly 50%, a little bit more female, 43% are male. In terms of the age breakdown, 0 to 94% in that number. 20 to 29, people who are 20 to 29 years of age, they represent 11% of those numbers. Age 30 to 39, they represented 15% of those numbers. 40 to 49, 20%. 16%, and 60 to 69, they represented, and I'm trying to do this without my glasses, right?
Well, Mayor, 80, no.
Take a look at that.
I think, I don't know.
Yeah, I wrote it.
I think the doctors are.
The problem is that I wrote these numbers down without the use of my glasses, you know. So, but 50 to 60 to 69.
13% maybe.
60 to 69, 31 counts 17.5%.
Yeah, 17%. Thank you. So 60 to 69. And this must be up. This is now I can see. Trying to be cute. 70% of the number, 70 to 79, 80 to 89 years of age, 4%, and 90 to 99, 1.1%. And the find is fascinating. We've been speaking out about that elderly, that being vulnerable population, but I people to focus on in this 230 days, because in this 202, 20 to 29, and that's 11% to 39, 15%, 40 to 49, 50 to 49 group. 20%. Okay, 50 to 59, 6%. And that is at 17%. And then these 232 elderly from 7 to 7, 80 to 89, 4. So this younger demographic, millennials and those older, are more in these numbers than people that are 70 years of age older. So I might be instructive. It's very, very important for people to enjoy distancing, to groups, avoid the bit partying, for example, and really take this very, very seriously. So as we move forward, especially as we grow our basketball team to be a little bit more granular in their analysis, so that we can have a profile of who's in these numbers and where they are. The other point that we want to make this week is that, for example, in this now number of 286, how many of those individuals are in the hospital, and how many are rescinded to take care of themselves at home. I think that too will be a very instructive number, because most of the people that's in this number, this 286, for example, they are attending to their situation at home and not going to the hospital. But as we do our testing, as now with regards to testing, over the last 24 hours, we've been working with all of our stakeholders, with FEMA and the county, to try to make sure that we are able to continue to test in the city of Houston. Butler will continue to test, and we are working out our situation with FEMA and CDC and others, because we'll look at Del Mar. My hope is that we'll be able to stand Del Mar up as soon as Tuesday. The only thing that's holding us back on the PPEs, and we're working on that. Over the 24 hours, I think we've gotten further clarification. They will be providing us with the initial supplies in order to do 200 per site. So that would not. So it's not going to be 250 combined as it relates to two sites, but 250 per site, and that will help us to be a little bit more robust in our testing, which will help us to give a better sense of what's happening in our community. And again, KN95 mask, and so that will help in our testing capabilities. You know, I spoke on Friday, a constitutional channel on Friday of last week, and then that afternoon he said that some additional help will be. And we got word that a total of 21,200 masks are already en route in the air, heading to the city of Houston, and that too stand up the additional sites. And so if there are others out there who are also interested in donating to the city of Houston, please do so. We certainly will appreciate that. And all of this is the equipment, the PPEs that we are seeking to purchase in the private sector, in the private market, and so we are doing that as well. So both of them up. Then the county has 2 that's up, and then the more we test, the better we can identify people out there with the virus. Then we can engage in the tracing, and then help to isolate people and have people quarantined, and that will be good for everyone. But I fully will continue to rise, and then that will help us in addressing our situation in the city of Houston. Now let me pause for a moment, and let me bring up first Chief Osabita, And you can also further talk about the testing if you got any additional.
Yes, sir, thank you. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for having us here, Sam and I here, and thanks for everything you're doing for our city. We, first I want to speak to the community is the fact that department, our call volume to soften a slight reduction in our call. That's been what we've been since this event started. And we're thankful that our community, the way they're conducting them, importantly, being thoughtful in terms of police or fire, speak for himself, but that's good. So our we continue downward trend on crime. The violence are slightly up, and assault are slightly up. And what you said, literally, as people are unfortunately, some people get a little emotional, make bad decisions. But we are ability capacity, and we are responding to all calls. I just got word a few minutes ago that we're up to our 11th officer. We had another officer that came back positive today. So we now have 11 officers that are positive. Out of the 11, 10 are doing really well. They're in isolation at home with their families at home, and one remains hospitalized. The one that remains hospitalized is a male classified employee, sworn employee who's early 40s and good health today. He actually had some toast, and other than being on oxygen, he will have a full recovery. I want to speak to the fact that we are going to continue both of our agencies to enforce the stay-at-home order. But we're having said that, when we have reports of people on Lake Houston, they're actually getting together and obeying stay-home order, congregating large groups on a bunch of boats. That's people that are absolutely ignoring no spirit of what we're trying to do. And I think Mayor speaks to about that. Older people like us taking this very seriously. Young people are not. And that's why people well under 60 or 50 as the majority. We will start citing people when we flaunt this stay-at-home order. You're going to completely ignore it and do it, certainly not hanging out together in a bunch of boats. You're going to end up getting inside, so please don't do that. Lastly, in Spanish, queremos que la comunidad sepan que el departamento de policía sigue funcionando al 100%. Esta tarde me dieron notificación que tenemos otro oficial de la policía que está positivo para el virus, y esos son 11 policías que tenemos ahora positivos. Para 10 de ellos están en buenas condiciones, no tienen ningún problema, están en su propio hogar. Ya tenemos solamente un oficial que está en el hospital, ya lleva varios días en el hospital, pero está mejorando todos los días y tenemos gran esperanza que va a estar bien. La última, que por favor, gracias, porque estamos viendo las llamadas para el servicio de la policía, llamadas de servicio, siguen bajando. Lo único que está subiendo es la violencia doméstica y los asaltos físicos. Por favor, tengan paciencia, tengan un respeto, y si necesitan la policía, por favor, llámenos. Aquí estamos a sus órdenes. So again, we're at 100% capacity, Mayor, and we are in eventuality.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chief. So I want to give you a quick update as far as the status of the Houston Fire Department. To date, our call volume, our vehicle accidents have dropped down, but it's being replaced by medical calls and medical 911 calls. What I got a report that we had our 5th firefighter that has tested positive for the coronavirus. That is in part of the group of the 91 that are in quarantine. A total of over 620 firefighters that have had some level of exposure since this operation began. Firefighters are doing well at this point. There has been no report of a complication that requires hospitalization, so that's a huge positive. But look, we're facing an invisible threat, and this virus is no joke. And So an approach as far as our response, and that we are making the assumption that every person that we meet is now infected, okay? So you're going to, from firefighters, they're going to now be assessing, doing a distance assessment of no less than 6 feet with one firefighter before they bring in additional, right? Now, it doesn't change for any cardiac arrest or trauma that requires immediate action. Our firefighters are going to be on the spot and function the same. But for those that we can do an assessment, a safety assessment, we're taking that extra precautionary step for the protection of our firefighters, their families, and ultimately, we want to avoid patients as well. I think one of the sobering statistics that the mayor mentioned is the high number of younger personnel that are being affected, or in that group of personnel in this county. Look, as a young person, you may be at a lesser risk to get serious illness, but you are at a higher risk of exposing others. And so it's important to be prudently cautious. Practice seeing has been talked over and over, and you know, this is the responsible thing for this community, and together we're going to get through this. But as of now, our staffing able to staff all our apparatus, but the more people that get infected, the more people that are taken out of the game, it's going to make it more difficult for us to maintain that. Ask the general public that when they call 911, please let us know. Let us know if there's anybody in the home that has symptoms of respiratory difficulty or any flu-like symptoms, okay? That'll better prepare us, not only fire department, but the police department, to better attend to your need.
Thank you, Kenny. So again, want to underscore between 20 and 60 in that 232, that first 230, the age group between 20 and 60 represent the majority of the positive cases from COVID-19, 20 to 60. Not 70 and up, but 20 to 60. I want to emphasize social distancing, and please, please restrict your gatherings and the private partying because it's not going to help anyone. And if you're visiting your parents or your grandparents, you have to be very careful because you'll be taking it to them. Okay, so we're all interconnected. I want to score. We're not waiting until our numbers are just astronomically high. We are looking now to build that capacity, to at least have that capacity is if we need to go to it. That's why we're touring facilities like the one today. And again, I want to thank Dr. Gobalani and Dr. Yes, that's what I said. I want to thank these two who are the owners of this facility. And quite frankly, if we needed it today, it's ready to be stood up today. And then at the same time, capacity for our homeless population, and then for our first responder city employees who may need to be quarantined, can do so. I want to make sure they're available. And on that note, this coming Wednesday on the City Council agenda will be an ordinance to give an authorization to lease room capacity 180 beds. That will be before City Council this coming Wednesday for them to vote on. Having said that,
is that for first responders?
First responders, city employees, and even the homeless population who may need to be. I can give you that information, but they're in the city of Houston. I think they're in the immediate southeast area, but there are two of them.
And one other thing there, in terms of how many beds or additional beds are being looked at?
You know, we and as for that, there are several that I'm getting information from that hopefully I can make this week. And that is that we have in our region the utilization right now, and I'm being told that under our utilization, that's why I'm to flatten this curve to spread over several months and not just a few weeks or 1 month. So we have our utilization rate, which is good. In terms of ventilators, we do have significant number of ventilators that have been used, ready to ramp. We're keeping a close eye on and looking at the number of people who are ICU in our 25 county. For example, this past week we got 70 to 77 in ICU beds in 5 county region. So there's capacity in there. And at this was 21 ICU beds. And the number, it's one thing to tell people how many, 202 cases. But what is how many are going to the hospital, how many are self-resolving, provide you with information as well. And Dr. Pierce are going through providing that granular information. And that will be, I think, will help people to be instructive to know that just because you get it doesn't mean you're instantly going to the hospital. A lot of people at home. 80% of those cases, and then you got the 20% that will be a little bit more serious.
You say this hospital is ready to go. Talk about just how ready it is. How many beds are here? How many people are going to be working here as far as
in terms of the capacity of this particular facility, there are 68 beds that are available. Of that 68, there are 21 ICU beds.
Can you re-say that?
ICU, that are ready to go. All the hookups are available. All they need now is the equipment. In addition to that, they have the capacity to, in this facility, to expand even beyond those 68 beds to even add many more beds. Observation, I think we can easily go up to 100 beds right here in this facility. The cafeteria, commercial, all already in place. And the other good news is that this facility was used as a hospital. So that's why it is ready to stand up.
Utilized all 5 floors, or?
All 5, the whole building would be available to us. And it's a situation, for example, even if we needed to use for our homeless population, we could do that as well.
And as of right now, this is the only...
There's another hospital that we are also taking a look at that's on the west side. We're identifying several facilities that were hospitals that are no longer up very quickly. So we're identifying facilities all over the city, just in case they are needed. And then we are partnering with the Texas, which really would be the ones, if we needed, would stand these facilities up.
So was this hospital not operating before?
They were operating. Kindred Hospital was here. And so it's just fortuitous that at a point in time in which we may need it, it's ready to transition for our usage.
The governor announced today he needs folks to come forward if they know of any available spaces to house people. Last week, we're told a group called XP and Equal Hotels.
We have had all hotel owners, which would equate to about 3,000 hotel beds if we need them. We are going to be entering into a lease with 2 of those hotels. This coming city council says the same. And we have them in our inventory. And so, to the extent we need to move in that direction, we want to be ready to go. We don't want to be scrambling to find any time when we need it. That's why we'll the numbers. We'll see how carefully kind of what the status of the hospital system in our respective regions, that if we think the capacity is already identified and we'll be ready to go. And then on top of that, the course is another entity utilized. We most likely it's available, assuming the worst scenario, that right now is still really needed.
11 officers that tested positive yesterday to talk about different approaches, seeing more masks out there. Are you officers, not everybody, an officer, even tax officers?
Changed our operational requirements for our office, telling them to identify masks, gloves, and I won't anticipate going, at the end of the day, remember our questions, we can't in social distance, and in our case, we don't have the most sometimes we're trying to take them into custody. And so on the front line should have the 95 mask. The entire experiencing challenges with sufficient support to Texas, the entire nation, but we should next week so to keep doing what we need to do. Looking at is that we're looking at being able to use the masks. Not there's not a known or as long as we're actually having them put back in the class, reuse them. Our consultant looking how we got the masks. So pretty good shape. I hope that's what we come to work for. This is a historical event, and quite frankly, I'm pretty proud of the way all of our organizations and this community is responding. Last thing that I wanted to say that I forgot to say earlier is I know there's a lot of people worrying about the supply chain, the food supply chain especially. I'm spending a lot of time while I'm driving around to supermarkets and to CVS stores and to all these places just to keep an eye on what it looks like. And so far, just like the mayor has talked about many times, hoard. Okay, thank you.
Did the doctors want to say anything? Do you guys want to talk about how this hospital can work?
Functional hospital till 31st. As a matter of fact, their lease expires on 31st. For their own reason, it was a working hospital, and I think everything like they mentioned about it is 21 ICU bed. They can be initiated, within few days. And this building is built for the hospital, and the hospital was running for at least last 10 years, and they were running pretty good, and they have been approved by, they've gone through JACO inspection, and they can go through all the first aid facility. As you know about it, is a very clean and functional hospital, can be converted anytime. Thank you.
Mayor, can I ask you one question? How are you with the progress or where the city is in this?
I take a look at cities all across the country and out of the United States, and we know, New York is really taking it on the chin. You try to learn from what's taking place in other areas, and we don't. And in order for us not to reach that point, it was important for us to take some very significant steps to tell people to stay at home business, and if we can flatten the curve, then we can keep from getting to that point, for example, where New York is. But the reality is that if we can all be in New York, okay, we can all be there. And so we have to take it very seriously. The numbers and I've had people say, Mayor, we're the fourth largest city. We've got 2.3 million Houstonians, and you have now 200. That doesn't seem like a whole lot, Mayor. But the reality is that our testing has not been nearly as robust as I would have liked it to be. And so I don't want people a low number. When you hear, for example, New York having, New York City having 25,000 cases, or New Orleans number of cases, and then you say City of Houston, as of today, 286. Mayor, that doesn't appear. But the reality is we know that there are other cases out there that we just haven't tested. So, I like the fact that people are compliant. We know that there are a lot of people who have lost their jobs because of the measures that have been put in place. And a lot of people are staying at home, kids are out of school. If we adhere to the measures that have been put in place, and if we work together, then yeah, we can come out of it a lot sooner. But the blunt aggression, stay well within the system's ability to take, and if we can do that, all of us will benefit. But I know the numbers are going. I don't get upset about what minimize the number of people who will lose their life. If you said we're at 2 certain, I don't want any more, and that's why people, if you stay sick, stay home. Okay, and at the same time, most people are going to self-resolve at home, and so we want to space best space for those. So I take it one day at a time. It's a 1 weekend done or 2 weekend done. So people don't understand that. So we got to be very one another. And the virus take the schedule. We will not dictate the schedule.
Does FEMA you're going to get testing kids?
They're talking about 250 per
250 just this week or
hours per day. Over the last 24 hours with you, if y'all can work with the PPEs, help us with the PPEs, we can do 200, we can provide you with what you need, 250 tests per site per day.
And today the mayor the governor talked about the borders now between Louisiana and
Right.
Texas. Talked about forms. What do you say about that?
Well, you know, I travel outside the state of Texas. When you come back to the state of Texas, you self-quarantine for 14 days, whether that was international traveling or traveling outside of the state. And I don't care where it is, Louisiana, Oklahoma. No one really should be traveling unless you absolutely have to. But even with some of my people at the city of Houston, for example, when they had to travel outside the state of Texas to go and get their kid from college and bring them back for 14 days. No signs, but still. So, you know, I've been saying for weeks, if you leave the state of Texas and you come back, especially for city employees, for 14 days. And then lastly, with respect to first responders, police and fire, let me tell you the best way that you can help them. If you need a firefighter, let them know, the operator know that you have flu-like symptoms or a cold, and that will help them ahead of time before they get to you. So if you let them know. For our police officers, the best way to help police officers, don't commit a crime. And then you won't need the best way to keep our police officers and first responders safe, you know, and let me just make my plea. Until the coronavirus criminals take a break, okay? Stay home, okay? Stay home. Get any crimes. And they'll stay safe and out of jail, and police officers will go home to their families. Okay, everybody chill. You chill. Coronavirus is over, okay? And then, all right, thank you very, very much.
Hopefully they'll change.
Your U11 Mayor Turner, another afternoon briefing. This injured hospital on West 26th. A few of the for you the facility case we need to expand hospital bed facilities. Look at different facilities throughout Houston in case needed. Scramble for space. We're hearing about shared early this afternoon the need to do so across 19 cases in the city, 4 reported cases today. Now, some deeper analysis of these numbers were shared. % are female, 43 male, and there are more couples who are millennials and combined than age 7. Finally, a large mask, including 1,200 in masks, 25,095 masks are on. China will have much more was discussed ahead on KTRU 11 News at 5, on KTRU 11 News at 10. But we're waiting a word from President for 30. We hope to see you then.
Take a look away for both